now live, recording, so again, I'm going to recall this meeting to order. The time is 6:06 p.m. on Tuesday, August 23rd. We are returning from executive session, and no action was taken in executive session, but I'd like to make a motion to return to public session. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So as usual, we'll begin our meeting with rising for the Pledge of Allegiance, so please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Seeing that this is a work session, there's no public comment this evening, but there'll be ample opportunity for public comment at our public hearings. So I'd like to do these board presentations as part of the public hearing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a motion to open the public hearing, which is to review the draft of the comprehensive updated master plan. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So before we begin, both myself and Trustee Manger, who's the chairperson of the steering committee, would like to make a few remarks, and then we'll turn this over to BFJ planners, as well as open this up for public comment. But before we begin, I just wanted to say thank you to a number of people. Thank you to all of the members of the steering committee that participated in this, and members of our land use boards, members of our board of trustees, and members of the public who participated in these various surveys and public presentations. Thank you again to BFJ, led by Frank Fish, longstanding planner, as well as Noah Levine and his team. Also wanted to thank Alex Wallach, who is runs our planning department here in Southampton Village, for those who don't know him. Again, we have Jane Clare here tonight of our planning board, who was on the steering committee, Eldon Scott, former member of planning commission, Shonda Campbell, as well as myself, as well as Bill Manger, and also Roy Stevenson, who helped on this committee. And again, thank you to everyone who participated, all of our land use boards, and everyone involved in the process who took the time to participate in these surveys. So I don't know if we have, if Kat, you have the slides available, but we wanted to do two things before we turn this over to our planners, which was number one, just to talk about how we got here today and the process that took place. And then I was hoping to very briefly go over some of the highlights and the chapters of this comprehensive master plan, and then really turn this over to our planners and team who really did the heavy lifting here. So Kat, if you don't mind maybe pulling up those slides, I can make some brief remarks. So just so we can see here on the screen, one of the things that actually we found quite exciting about this was we actually reached out to Frank Fish, who had one of his team members who does some of these renderings and sketches, a former, I believe, adjunct professor at Pratt University, and he helped actually come up with this rendering that you see here of what Nugent Street could possibly look like. And in particular, this is a separate project, but there's a rendering of a replica of a windmill that we're working on, but that's Windmill Lane and Nugent Street right there. So we'll get into that later, but I thought that was one of the highlights. I might turn this over to Bill for a few, if that's okay, Bill. He'll go over exactly what a comprehensive master plan is and some of the planning, and then I'll speak about some of the highlights from this plan. So if you keep on scrolling, Kat, we can go to the next slide. Thank you, Noah. So, Bill, is this something you wanted to talk about? Or
Yeah,
sure.
I'll do a little of this and then Noah chime in, but I just want to give a little background to begin with. So this actually began 23 years ago when I was a trustee previously and was the liaison from the board to the master plan at that time, which was done by BFJ and was published in the year 2000. This plan builds upon the plan that BFJ did all those years ago and adds in, again, the changes in the village, certainly demographically, and with the built environment, and with changes in what the village would like to see in its future. We had meetings in the fall by Zoom, and then an in-person meeting with members of the community that wanted to come speak about the plan and voice their opinions and their thoughts and their ideas in the spring. We also had an ideas board where people could post their thoughts, concerns, questions, suggestions. That was very well received. And once we again had all of this taken into account, there was a survey that went out. Many residents completed the survey, submitted their responses for the survey, and we were able to again evaluate the general perception of the village and how it's perceived by the village residents and what they would like to see for their village in the future and certainly going forward. The plan that we are looking at here in draft form is really a plan for at least the next 10 years, and there are a lot of big things that are going to happen within the next 10 years. The biggest ones I would say would be the sewer system for the central business district, which will allow for redevelopment of parts of the downtown with the possibility of additional restaurants, housing in the downtown, which will be more affordable because it will probably be in the form of second-story apartments, something that we're lacking in the village right now. We want to have a more diversity of housing stock so that, again, there are people that work in some of the stores and the businesses here could actually be able to live technically really above the store and be able to be part of the village community that way. And finally, another major thing that's going to happen probably within the next 5 years is the relocation of the Southampton Hospital from the village to the site of SUNY Stony Brook, here at the Southampton campus. SUNY Southampton, I should say. So they're going to move west of the village, which will leave a large portion of our village with a big question, what comes next after the hospital leaves. Now, the one good thing about it is right now, the hospital is the #1 employer in the village of Southampton. And what I would say is, well, obviously that's very good. There's a lot of traffic from people that work at the hospital that come in and out of the village every day. So with the hospital moving west of the village, actually we should see, and the plan speaks to this, we should see a slight decrease in the traffic in the heart of the village because nurses, custodial workers, doctors, again, will not be coming in and out of the village as they are now to go to work at the hospital. As you know, doctors cannot work remotely. They have to show up at the hospital. And so that will be something that will change in the future, and this plan takes into account those changes. So this plan really is for the next 10 years. At this point, it's a draft. This is the official public hearing for the draft. We want to get comments, again, continuing from the public, and then we will move on to, at some point, probably we hope in September, to adopt the plan and then move forward with implementation of the plan. By adopting the plan, it does not, I want to make very clear, does not enact anything in the plan. It's just adopting the ideas that are put forth in the plan. Specific legislation on different items or specific goals of the plan will come later and be addressed in future public meetings such as this. So I want everyone to be very clear that, by adopting the plan, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden all these things are implemented. It just means that the plan is implemented, and then the village has to work on the different items to implement those individually over the next several months. But with that, that's I think a good introduction, and maybe Noah from BFJ, Noah Levine, would like to go through some of these slides because I know that he and his group work very diligently on putting these together. But I wanted to give an overview of where we think we see the village going in the next 10 years and how we want to be again stewards of the future development of the village. So Noah, thank you.
Sure, great. Thank you, Bill. Thank you to the board for helping us through this process and really guiding us to just help us understand what the big issues are and help us work through those issues. And it has been a very productive process. I'm going to try and skip through some of the slides. I don't want to repeat too much of what Bill already said. If you can go to the next slide. Again, as the mayor mentioned, and Bill mentioned, this is a plan. The zoning would be based on the plan and must be based on the plan. So the idea is to solidify, hopefully build consensus within the community for the types of projects and recommendations and policies you'd like to see. And then ultimately it's up to the village to move forward with those ideas. The plan, for those of you who haven't seen it, is split into 8 chapters. This is typical for a comprehensive plan based on topic. The key here is the chapter 8, the future land use plan and zoning recommendations. That's really kind of the list, bullet point list of all the things that are included within the plan. So if you want a quick read, you can start with the intro and planning goals and you can skip right there. But if you want to spend some time with it, we encourage everyone to read through the whole document. This has been a process that took just about a year until now. We started last year. And then if you could skip to the next slide, Kat, just shows some of the public outreach that we've done. We had our first workshop in October, which was online due to COVID, and we wanted to be respectful of everyone's needs. The second workshop, there really was a push to do it in person, and I thought we had a great meeting of about 100 attendees with breakout group discussions. It was a great day. It was also paired with a movie series the night before, and I think that helped to really build a lot of momentum and conversation. We had a public survey in the fall. Just under 260 responses were received, most of which were from village residents. And we also had an ideas wall in the fall, which is basically a comment board for people to post open-ended comments. And that really helped us understand, some of the ideas that might not be captured by a survey, and enable people to also see what others had said and respond to those comments. The guiding principles of the plan are similar to what was in the prior plan. The first is to preserve and enhance the quality of life elements in the village. Second is to focus on the needs and the aspirations of village residents, perhaps not those of out-of-towners, and really to think about this as a place where people live. The next is to balance the needs of pedestrians and automobile users, thinking about streets in a multimodal and complete way, thinking about ways to improve safety for pedestrians and bikers, and also reduce vehicle speeds and potentially unsafe situations. Improving the village center and preserving the village center. There's a lot of history here, so we need to make sure that we look at areas where it might be appropriate to think about change, and areas that we really want to preserve, where we want to preserve the character. And lastly, a new kind of topic that wasn't in the prior plan is just thinking about sustainability, sustainable patterns of development, thinking about how what we do now impacts will impact our life here in the future, and thinking in a global way. Mayor, would you like me to pass it back to you to kind of go through some of the recommendations, or would you?
I think you're on a good roll right now, so
Okay,
I'll add a few comments at the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
And so just quickly to kind of go through some of the key highlights for housing and residential neighborhoods. Most of our zoning really dealt with fine-tuning some of the zoning districts where there might be a need to increase setbacks, and to make sure that there's adequate space between buildings, also to discourage tear downs and oversized buildings. There's a need to increase green coverage requirements, so that if buildings are torn down, they aren't overpaved. Thinking about maintaining the green portions of the village for both an environmental and an aesthetic standpoint. We did look at affordable housing, and the first recommendation of the baseline was to require at a minimum 10% workforce housing for multifamily developments, with the possibility of more in certain areas. But this is certainly an area that needs to be looked at further, so there's a recommendation that the village do more of a comprehensive affordable housing plan, something similar to what the town of Southampton has recently been working on. And then also looking at where denser housing types might be appropriate. Most of those areas were closer to the village center and along some of the commercial corridors where you have office districts. With regard to historic preservation, that was something that we heard from a lot of people. How can we kind of, really discourage tear downs, particularly of older buildings. So the plan looks at protections for contributing buildings that are outside of the historic district, because the historic district really does a lot to protect those buildings in the area. Also updating the architectural design guidelines, which currently exist but are not well utilized or publicized. So better integrate those design guidelines into the site plan approval process, but also develop architectural guidelines for the village center where none exist right now. And then also there's this idea of an arts and cultural heritage trail. So through marketing efforts and other potentially wayfinding improvements, you could market some of the beautiful and historic sites located around the village center for people walking, biking, etc. Within the village center, we recognize the need to balance new investment while maintaining the quality and the lower scale of the village. In the plan, we heard that Main Street, Job's Lane, really should be maintained, and so there's no real desire for any kind of development or new development in those areas. However, along Nugent Street and Windmill Lane, there are a number of vacant and underutilized sites that might not be the highest and best use for a village center. There's in some cases parking in the front, in other cases large front yards where you might want to, if you were to redevelop, push buildings closer to the street and create more of a close-knit feel. So we do have some suggestions on how to do that. The biggest thing in this case would be the sewers. It's unlikely for anything to happen without the sewers. So that's one of the big items for the village to pursue, is implementing a sewer district in coordination with the county. In the village center, we did hear the need to improve conditions for pedestrians and bikers. One thing that we did notice was that both Nugent Street and Windmill Lane are wider perhaps than they need to be. They have excess width, and that width can be used for many different things, one of which is to create bike lanes on both streets that could help kind of connect areas to the north to areas to the south and to the beach areas. And this might also connect to a larger bicycle network that we've proposed that should be considered. And the bike network are really just ideas at this point. They should be studied further. But in addition to that, in the downtown area, we did hear the need to improve intersections for pedestrians, improve bike parking, and also generally focus on gaps in the sidewalk network close to the village center. This map just shows some of the suggested bike routes that might be considered. Of note is a potential bike route that would kind of take one to and from the village center to the beaches. Because some of those north-south roads are too narrow for bike lanes on both sides, you could have a route where you would have a bike lane on one side in one direction and another a lane in the other direction going northbound. We looked at office district areas. The map on the bottom right just shows the HRO district, which is an office district that is designed so that buildings kind of look similar to the single-family homes. What we have seen is the intrusion of residential uses. We understand that there is a market for residential uses, but what we was the opinion of the plan that residential uses really should be discouraged in areas closer to the village center. And in those office areas, perhaps other 2, 3, 4 family units might be preferable to single family units. So that's something that there might be zoning opportunities to encourage those uses. We did look at the hospital site, and we met with the hospital. We also met with residents. This was an important topic of conversation. It was understood that most support reuse of the hospital site for residential. It could be a variety of different types of residential, whether it be single-family, townhomes, and multifamily. What was clear that in the HA district, which is where the parking areas are, that should be basically the same residential district as the surrounding areas. But for the main campus site, there could be an opportunity for some flexibility in design. And also there was a desire to have flexibility to encourage other public amenities such as workforce housing, age-restricted housing, and publicly accessible open space. So we did recommend that there be a little bit of flexibility if when the time comes to provide for those amenities. We also looked at parks and open spaces. There are some fun ideas for ways to bring some smaller park areas or flexible park areas to downtown. The mayor mentioned the Windmill Park concept, which was something that wasn't our idea, that was in prior plans, but we think should be continued. And also open space preservation. We worked with the town and others to create a map of prioritized parcels to use CPF funds from the county. So hopefully this will be helpful, and you can work with, the village should work with the town to acquire some of those properties and preserve them. And lastly, for sustainability, one of the main recommendations is to adopt and implement a climate action plan. So just to get a little bit further into that, some of the policies that might be recommended would be, actions and strategies to reduce waste, recycling, improve recycling, and also to generate solar and geothermal energy. There are other ways to make the municipally owned facilities more sustainable. That might be solar, LED, or an EV fleet. And so, we think that there are a number of things the village can do, but also that climate action plan would really help to advance some of those ideas. And with that, before I pass it back to the trustees, just wanted to remind you that tonight we'll be taking comments. The process after this would be for trustees to review those comments, determine how changes should be made, and we'll make those changes, and then at the appropriate time you can determine whether or not it's appropriate to adopt the plan. Is there anything else, Frank?
Well, I have one
Yes.
other thing. I just want to know where we are on the secret process, because we did start that, and I'd like to get an update on that.
Yeah.
Please.
The board has now, as you know, you all declared lead agency as the village board, and all lead agency does is say that this is the agency most responsible for adopting the plan. And you've also done a part one, it's called, of the State Environmental Quality Review Act. That's been done, and you had to have that to declare lead agency. And then also we provided you with a part two, which evaluates the impacts of this. And as you know, our belief is that the general impacts of adopting this plan are beneficial to the village. If they weren't, I think you wouldn't be doing this process. So based on that, we wanted to go through this hearing tonight and hear anything else that the public has to say. And then at your next meeting, when you, well, not your next meeting, but at a meeting where you propose to adopt the plan, you just have to make a final part three of the seeker that it's called, and that is a determination whether adopting this plan has a beneficial impact or a negative impact. If it has any negative impacts, that will require a full generic environmental impact statement. If it does not, you can make what's called a negative declaration. That's the end of, you've completed seeker, then you'd be free to adopt the plan.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much, Frank. So we'll open this up to public comment, and I'll just reiterate, tonight's public comment is extremely important because this is a draft of the plan, and the final version will be shaped by you and your input. So the more input that we can receive, the better. And then those who are, for whatever reason, unable to make public comment tonight, they will also be able to submit written comment throughout the rest of this month and the first half of September. So I don't know if, Charlene, if we have a list of those.
We do, Mayor.
Okay, we can start with that, and then we can call people after the list is complete.
Okay, we do have 3 minutes.
That's right.
On the clock. Our first speaker is Mark Fishhandler, 51 Cooper Street.
You can move that one. No,
To the mic,
microphone.
yeah. Whatever's most convenient.
Is this good?
Yeah.
Am I audible? First of all, thanks for everybody for doing this plan, because I think it's really great. I have a very small area that I want to speak about. The bike situation, 2 words, yes and more. So I love the idea that we're addressing this. As we all know, people bike all over town a lot. I know there's a few proposed bike paths in this initial plan. I just think we need as many as possible, especially Meadow Lane, Gin Lane to the end and back is a really popular bike road. I know it's not wide enough to create an actual bike lane, but as the mayor and I discussed previously, maybe just painted access so that you have a little bit of protection. I'm not sure the idea of one way down first and one way up South Main is going to be functionally practical because people are going to bike on both sides no matter what. So, even if we painted it on down one side and up another street as a one-way idea, I don't think that's going to work because people are going to bike on both sides anyway.
Right, could I just add
Yes.
to that? So you're exactly correct. The roads are not wide enough to have them in both directions, but what we will have is, again, the dedicated lane going south on First Mac, north on South Main Street, but on the opposite side of the road, there will be a shower for bike riders who, again, want to travel in the opposite direction. But this is to basically have a main bike route to encourage people that want to go to the beach on their bike to go on that route. But of course, it allows people to bike on the other side of the road as well, just not in a dedicated bike lane.
Right. And I just think those, what do you refer to it as?
A shower,
A shower.
yes.
Okay. So I think we need lots of those.
Okay.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mark.
I'd also like to, I'm a biker as well, Mark, and I'd like to, as you ride around, inevitably you can't do much about people's behavior, but you're continually being heckled, people honking the horn at you, get a horse, whatever. I would love to see, in addition to more paths and whatnot, just some signage saying Southampton or this is a bike-friendly neighborhood or whatever. Just, it doesn't really do a lot of good, but every little bit helps in terms of encouraging people to act more civilly towards bikers, which I see as a biker continually, people kind of driving very close to me or whatever. I don't know. I think we should encourage making this area a bike-friendly area.
Thank you. Charlene, who do we have next on our list?
James Sandner, 686 Hill Street.
Your Honor, trustees, thank you for allowing me to speak. First, congratulations on what is a really nice plan, and I think you've done a great job in a lot of areas. Yes to the sewer, for sure, yes to bike lanes. But to me, that's table stakes on moving the village forward. The problem that is not, I think, addressed here is County Road 39. The plan essentially throws up its hand and says you can't do anything about it. And to me, that is a major mistake because County Road 39 is the traffic problem. It is the problem with bike lanes. It is the problem with everything. It is not, County Road 39 is not a Southampton road. I mean, it obviously runs through Southampton town, but it is what forces all the traffic down into the village. And as a resident of Hill Street, I respectfully disagree with your assessment that the hospital is going to reduce traffic. It's actually going to increase traffic because the people that are going to go to the hospital are east of Southampton. They're going to be coming from Watermill and from Bridgehampton, and they're going to have to go visit sick people there. And they're going to be coming through. Nurses and doctors travel on off hours. And the fact of the matter is, people in West Hampton Beach, they're going to maybe be going to Stony Brook. They're going to maybe be going to River. Then you throw on the casino that the Shinnecock Indian Nation is going to maybe put in there, and you're getting an even worse traffic problem. And if you think about what County Road 39 does to workforce housing, we don't have enough housing. Well, that's because people can't get here from up island because of the problem. Environmental, people sitting in traffic on Hill Street every day in front of my house, that's an environmental problem. And blinking yellow light, I saw you on Instagram, Your Honor. Great, but the fact of the matter is, you've got to do something about County Road 39, and I don't think I realize it's a broader problem than the village. It's the whole east end of Long Island, but the people that are traveling on 39, they're going out east, they're going to Amagansett, and they're causing this village problems. And I don't think I saw in the plan, it said, well, can't widen, can't fix County Road 39. I agree, bypass it. There are ways, when you're coming in on 27, there's a Department of Transportation site there. You can run up there, and if you've ever come into Southampton on the train, you look, there's dead space on either side of the train tracks. Build a couple of those walls, and you put 2-lane roads right into Southampton campus, put an intersection there. Now ambulances can get to the hospital, get from the hospital, and then you can turn up between the 2 golf courses. You might have to take out 1 putting green, and you can get up to Sandy Hollow and get up to North Sea Road, and that would solve a huge amount of problems. There are probably other ideas. I'm not a planner, but I can just look on a satellite map and can see that for tearing down 10, 12 houses, you could get that done. And I'm not talking about tens of millions, it might be $100 million, but you put an easy pass on there. How much would people pay if they could get out to the Bridgeside Turnpike in 10 minutes? They'd pay $3 each way every day, and you could do it. It could be done, and I would urge, as part of this plan, that you go to the town, go to the county, go to the state, get state money, and put together a working group on doing something about County Road 39, because you're never going to solve the problems of the village, from environment to workforce to whatever, without addressing County Road 39. So that's my comments, but thank you.
Thank you, James. Those are good points, and I also wanted to add, in addition to what we're doing here in the Comprehensive Master Plan, just last week, for example, I actually wanted to get ahead of this issue, and I called a meeting with 2 Deputy County Executives, Deputy County Executive Scully and Ed Moltzen. I also got Commissioner Brown, head of the Suffolk County Department of Public Works, as well as the head of engineering and traffic in Suffolk County. And we've got Supervisor Schnartman, the town highway superintendent there. We had representatives really across the board, as well as county legislators there. And we basically said, this has got to be the #1 problem. The flashing lights are just a step in the right direction, but we really want to have, obviously, the green lights run longer, so there's less reds, and also we want a full-blown traffic study, which I'm requesting money from both the Suffolk County operating budget as well as the Suffolk County capital budget, which is going to be done in September. I'll be actually there at that meeting, making public comment like you did here, trying to get some money and funds in that capital budget for this extensive County Road 39 traffic study. And this has got to go all the way, from further west past Tuckahoe Road, which is a major road, obviously through Watermill, and we've got to have the traffic flowing. But the good news is we built strong relationships with both the state and the county and the town, and we're actually all working together, all levels and layers of government, working to try to solve this problem. And I'm really hoping that I can be someone who is persistent, who pushes this through. So we are on the same page. And on top of that Hill Street light that you saw me on, that's actually operated by the New York State Department of Transportation. So we're also in communication with the DOT to address that. And then just today, I don't know if it's going to help, but there is grant money. I actually meeting with our congressional office and requested to meet with the federal DOT as well. So we're really pushing that. You don't see all that hard work in this plan here, but we recognize that is an extremely important issue in the village, likely one of the most important, if not the most important. So hopefully that helps address some of those concerns. And sorry for my long-winded response here. So Charlene, if we'd like to call the next speaker.
Yes, David Rung, 85 Pleasant Lane.
Thank you. Name is David Rung. My wife and I have lived in the village for over 20 years. The major disappointment of the master plan is that it does not address the deplorable financial position of the village. The village has $100 million of unfunded debt, a huge burden on this village for the future. The village has an annual budget of $33 million. Sag Harbor provides the same village services with a budget of $13 million. People marvel at how vibrant Sag Harbor is compared to Southampton. Well, maybe that's because Sag Harbor does not extract an extra $20 million out of the local economy to fund inefficient government. Village also has the issue of who pays these absorbent taxes. Because of an arcane system to determine assessed values, the low-value properties pay a disproportionate amount of the taxes. The residents of Winding Way, pay 3 to 6 times in relation to value as the residents of the estate section. And no one in this village seems to care about this inequity. We are actively looking for trustee candidates to replace Roy and Robin. We need to find trustee candidates who care about government efficiency, and we need to find candidates who care about fair treatment of the village residents.
Next speaker.
Pat Mulally.
Okay. Real close. Hi. So my subject is much lighter. I'm Pat Mulcahy. I've lived in Southampton for 34 years, and I am an artist, and I'm very passionate about my art, and I have an idea for the village's future. The Art Students League in Manhattan, which I've been attending for 34 years, is just a fantastic school, and I'm a member of the board of directors there. And I presented to the president the idea that I'm going to share with you. I would like to see the Art Students League operating model as a separate campus here in the village of Southampton, in the section that I read about in the newspaper this weekend called Art and Culture, where, because I've talked to so many artists out here at different opening parties and exhibits, and they all said, what a great idea, we don't have anything like that. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Art Students League on West 57th, but it's all about the importance of artistic creativity. It's about maintaining the greatest respect for artists, and it's about educating students in the process of making art, whether they be wanting to be professional artists or just try it, for the first time. So my thought was that if we could put a campus here, that it would differentiate the village of Southampton, and it would be for the benefit of all the artists in the Hamptons, that it would be in the village of Southampton, the town I love. So that's my idea, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone offline about it some more, but I plan on presenting this to the board in New York when they come back after the holidays here, or the vacation time, I should say. But I wanted to take the opportunity tonight to just plant the seed in your mind, and any thoughts that you have initially, I would love to hear. Okay?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat.
Just to add a little something, we do propose an arts overlay district in the village. I don't know if you saw that.
I did read it, yeah.
Yeah, that includes part of Hill Street, part of Palm Lane, and Job's Lane, because we have obviously a lot of cultural institutions and different artistic endeavors in that location. And so maybe this is something that could somehow be added to that.
You can start off small,
Yeah.
but at least the Art Students League is very well known.
Oh, yes.
It's been around 145 years. Many artists that you would know all their names, studied there. George O'Keeffe, I could go on. And I can't tell you how many artists I've met at the Watermill Museum exhibits or wherever I am. And I shared this idea that this school could be so great for them. And like a lady who's a photographer, I want to try sculpture, like they want to learn something else. But think of all the people that have never done art.
Yeah.
I know I've inspired many people throughout my career to try it, and a lot of them do take to it and stick with it. So it's just something that I think would be a good differentiator for the town.
No, thank you very much.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we have on the list, Mayor. I have one email communication that wanted to be read into the minutes as well.
All right. I think it makes sense to do some more public comment, and then we can go to the written comment. And then I would also just encourage everyone, we want to listen to everything everyone has to say, positive or negative, but please do keep this, on track for the master plan. So I see Evelyn Conrad with her hand up here. Not. Okay, and then we'll do Zoom next.
I happen to have come across this ad from 2014 from the Southampton Association, arguing that the Southampton Village trustees are allowing destruction of another neighborhood, and this house is not compatible in scale and design. Right. And what has happened since then? Nothing. Of course, we didn't have a master plan. Let me just redefine, if I may, what a comprehensive plan is meant to be. It is meant to represent the views of the constituencies of the municipality in terms of the quality of life and the physical aspect of their municipality. And then in zoning, you're supposed to implement that. In other words, it's a step toward self-government so that zoning does not just go hog wild, but represents what the people who live there and pay the taxes, own the property, shop there, and whatever, that their view is represented. Now, this is done with trying to keep bias out of sampling. There are certainly many techniques for doing that, and keep the bias out of questioning, and above all, to keep everything away that is not between the people, the municipality, and the opinion researchers. And that is where the first thing happened here, that the Southampton press has gotten exactly right. What we have is the Manger plan. And unfortunately, it does not deal with either the problems of today, and certainly not of tomorrow, nor does it give a very courageous view of what is needed. For instance, I don't know how many of your committee, by the way, you were not elected, so I sort of don't like that very much. How many of the people on your committee actually live in 3-bedroom ranches in a local village, in our local towns, in our local streets? I'm obviously excited about this because I'm very upset about what has happened. Now, there is no way you're going to be able to keep the 3-bedroom ranches here, and yet those are the families that provided the firemen, the volunteer ambulance service, the lifeguards, the workforce for the seasonal restaurants and businesses that we have. In other words, we have a self-created labor shortage. We also had affordable housing, and that was the 3-bedroom ranches, 3-bedroom houses on ranches. You're not going to be able to put that back into that toothpaste back. It just won't. But you are not even taking a step toward it, not one single step. You're also not even considering what is already a big problem and getting worse, and that is the increase in winds, and so that the excessively high houses in our residential areas can so easily spread the fire to other houses, and they will, because we're past the time of 30-mile-an-hour winds. We are now dealing with 60 and 70-mile-an-hour winds, or at least we will be getting them. You have not in the least considered that little sandbar called Meadow Lane, which is so grotesquely overbuilt that, I take people there so we can giggle, but it's not a giggle, it's very serious. That area, before the end of this century, certainly is going to go the route of West Hampton 900 block. I know those were houses on stilts, but concrete and iron and steel does not fight an ocean and the Shinnecock Bay. So those are just two of the problems you have not addressed in the least. But we will get bicycle paths. Wonderful. I think there is a terrible danger when politicians take over what should be mostly an academic exercise, which is what opinion research really is. And the product shows it. As always, it's very professionally presented and all that. I've been a long-time fan of Frank's and his work. This is not a fair product of his work. It is a gift to the developers that we haven't seen since Mark Epley shoved through the zoning code, under which we are still suffering now, the one of 2005. Why? You have not addressed the lack of space required between houses. Never mind no privacy, no safety in our residential areas, in our small streets. You have not addressed the fact that we have an immense overflow of cars, because an 8-bedroom house obviously has more cars than a 3-bedroom house. I'm guilty of a 4-bedroom house, but it's 2,100 square feet, okay? And I've never enlarged it, but nobody cares about that. I'm just trying to tell you, what you have not done is address any of the problems of today, and very timidly address the problems of 2005. So, what are you going to do? Let me also say something else. The business of having large public hearings sounds very democratic. It happens that the people who go to those are a self-selected sample, you know that, and therefore do not represent the village. I would be very curious to know how many people who live in 3-bedroom ranches year-round are here, for example. Do we have many? Thank heaven. Okay. Excellent. Delighted. I don't think you have that same proportion when you have those large numbers. Furthermore, the year-round people, we are sort of a New England village, or were 65, 70 years ago. And that means fairly conservative, community-minded, religious, and don't want to offend anyone. Therefore, to put people like that in a large room and expect them to speak out is not doing a very good job of opinion research. It doesn't work. The people who speak out are people like me and John Bennett, you know, the lawyers, and preserve the world against the lawyers and against people who are steering committees. I don't think a good researcher really needs to be steered in any which way. So anyhow, that's interesting. 2014, the Clairvoyant Southampton Association objected to the scale and size of the houses and how destructive they were to the neighborhoods. It's still happening. Nothing has happened since. The little farm that you represent. The other thing that could have been discussed, the overbuild of the lots, half-acre lots, for example. Never mind that the FAR should represent everything that's there. You shouldn't even have a pool house when the house itself is closer to the pool than the pool house. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, Evelyn. The other thing I would suggest is that we will still be open for written comments, so any of the comments could go to Frank Fish, and it could make sense for you to outline that for Frank so he could include some of those in the plan.
Mayor, I suggest the comments go to the village clerk, and then
Okay,
we would
and then
get
to you,
them.
okay.
Yeah, and then we would get them. That
Okay.
way you.
I see, I'll go from my right to left. I see Martha there, and then Eric will get to you, and then we could go to the left, so.
Please state your name and address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Martha Reichert from the law firm Toomey Latham, 33 West 2nd Street in Riverhead, New York. I come here today representing the Southampton Hospital Association, which owns the several properties that the hospital campus is on. And I want to first thank the Board of Trustees, the committee that worked on the master plan, Village Planner Alex Wallach, and also BFJ for all of their work and all the opportunities that the hospital has had to sort of listen to the community through this master plan process. You know, in terms of the hospital, we're happy with what we see in the master plan. It's critical for the hospital when it builds the new hospital to be able to realize a return on the properties that it has within the village. And so what I see here in the draft master plan is a certain amount of flexibility balanced with sensitivity to the neighbors and the surrounding zones where the hospital properties are located. And so again, we want to thank the village for the opportunity to listen to our comments and for building flexibility into the plan. And you know, we note that you know, when the hospital does move, I know there's some debate about the reduction in traffic, but there will most certainly be a reduction in the intensity of the use of that property in the surrounding neighborhood. And so again, we thank the village for giving a certain amount of flexibility to those properties in the future. And I believe that by doing so in this draft comprehensive plan, that when the hospital does have an idea of what it wants to do with those properties, that we'll be able to achieve some of the goals of the master plan and bring a benefit and a public good to the community as a whole. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Good evening. I'm Eric Winkler. I live on 37 John Street, and I read the plan overall. I think it's a very nice, very good document, and really applaud the effort that you've undertaken. A couple of things. Affordable housing, wherever you go on this planet, affordable housing is an issue. And I think it hasn't been really well addressed in the plan. On one side, you want to continue to preserve single-family houses, but I think what's wrong with multi-family houses or some developments that are meaningful, not dedicated areas necessarily, but I think that should be somehow addressed. More of a question is, did you look at, within the core of the village, the parking lot, which is not a very nice place, but to have some development or consider for development on the inside, similar to like what East Hampton does, that there could be storefronts or public, a restaurant or something, behind, not just on Main Street or Chorley, but also on the other side. Finally, I think, plans are plans, and the key is to get to implementation. And I think it would be helpful to include a section on how you plan to implement it. I mean, you talk about that high level, but, some things are low-hanging fruit and easy to implement. Others, are dependent on the sewer district, and they might take 3 to 5 years to realize. And I think it would be helpful, to get the momentum going and get people on board and establish realistic expectations. I think it would be helpful to kind of see what can be done within what time frame, and which ones may require investments and which ones are just kind of part of the course. And finally, maybe also think whether there is any, you had a committee now, right? Is that the end of it, or is there going to be some kind of a governance, with community input to kind of like guide this forward in terms of both priorities and investment and activities? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you. And then Jeff, you can be next. Oh, Jeff, you can be next after this. Yes. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, fellow trustees. My name is Lori Carson, and I live at 112 Herrick Road in Southampton. I have lived here most of my life. I still live in the house that my grandfather built in the early 1900s, and I am so grateful that you have finally addressed a master plan for this village. But before it can be implemented, the two things that I think are really crucial, that is the sewer district and a reliable traffic study. During the months of July and August, the traffic in this village is becoming unsustainable. I agree with this gentleman about County Road 39, but the village traffic it's not what's feeded from County Road 39. It's from the amount of the volume of people that are now living in this village. I've spoken to the mayor several times about a traffic study. Is there a traffic study? Is one being done? It seems like every time that there's an election, everybody talks about a new sewer and a traffic study, and then nothing seems to materialize. So I think unless those two things are the first two things that you address in this study, that the rest of the stuff is pie in the sky. It just won't be done. And just one opinion, the rendering for Windmill and Nugent Street, there's no one more that would like to see that redeveloped, but I think it looks a tad overdeveloped. So it's just something that I would like you all to take in consideration, because I also own commercial real estate on Main Street, and this village is very, very special and very important to me, and I'd like to see its charm maintained. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff.
Hi there, Jeff Broadley, 166 Halsey Street. Bill, you touched on it, that this is a plan that is to be adopted, and I think the true test, and addressing some of Evelyn's concerns, which Evelyn and I agree on many things, we disagree on some things, but the proof of the pudding will be, as this gentleman also said, in the implementation. So I think it's our responsibility as appointed members of building land use boards or whatever to solicit comments like yours and to build off the plan, which is good because we refer to it oftentimes in our architectural review board meetings. So to have a plan now that speaks to those issues, then I think it's important for us to take those in and then come to you, the trustees, with suggestions about how to change the codes to reflect that plan. So it's not lost because they may not be explicit in the plan, Evelyn, but I think the meat is there for us to then work on and to implement. So anyway, I thank you for the effort there, and you've given yourself a chore ahead of you well beyond this plan.
Thank you, Joe. I would add also there is the suggestion in the draft plan to have the land use boards contribute at least once a year issues that they see arise in the village that should be addressed by the village board. So that could involve zoning, it could be design guidelines, it could be issues regarding site plans. But so there is a request in there that the land use boards should provide at least annually a report to the village trustees on issues that they think need to be addressed. So thank you for that, Jim.
Is there any additional public comment? Anyone on Zoom? Okay. Ken, thank you.
His name is Jacob. I'm not going to try the last name.
I think I know which Jacob it is. It probably starts with a Y.
Hi, Jacob. You're on.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I wasn't able to come on out. Just wanted to share with the trustees what I've been working on over the last year, in particular with Robert Wilson with the Watermill Center, which is kind of in conjunction to what the master plan was regarding the Hill Street and the Cultural Center. So we've worked with our architects and engineers to reconstitute 43 Hill Street as a performance media workspace, and of course, collaborating with the creative capabilities of the Watermill Center to do a curriculum base. I know I've shared quite a bit of literature with Jess and the trustees, but there's quite a bit of documents behind that. But I just wanted to reiterate that we did find a champion to support this thesis of a creative arts and cultural capability on Hill Street. And I'm delighted that Robert Wilson has agreed to work with us on this cause.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Appreciate your comments.
Can you ask the other attendees to raise their hands if they want to talk?
Thank you, Kat. If there are any other attendees who'd like to participate in a public comment, please raise your hand and Kat will let you in. And if there is not any additional hand raises, I will defer this to Charlene, who could read some of the written comments we've got into the public record as well. So I don't see any hands, so Charlene, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an email we received, the clerk received this week from Walter Dean. And I will request to be read into the public hearing record. To our wonderful trustee and mayors, many thanks for all you do for our beautiful village. The Southampton Hospital Neighborhood Association is a welcoming and inclusive group of about 75 hospital neighbors that have been meeting since 2017. Many of us have lived near the hospital for generations. We have supported the hospital financially, by volunteering, and in many other ways. We have always been good neighbors to the hospital, even when it has meant that our neighborhood is becoming busier and less residential. While many past and current neighbors were quite concerned when various buildings were expanded and single-family houses were turned into parking lots and offices over the years, we accepted the changes for the good of our hospital and community. We understand the hospital's desire to maximize the economic return on the sale of its property and are prepared to work constructively towards a reasonable solution that takes our neighbors' concerns into account. Please understand that our consensus that our consensus that once the hospital moves, it is critically important that the resulting uses be consistent with the character of the neighborhood and will benefit the village as a whole. Thus, there is a strong desire for the association membership that when the hospital moves to the college site, 1, all parking lots and accessory buildings which were formerly single-family residential homes be returned to that use as originally intended. 2, there be a study on the street parking spaces that have been added over the years with a goal of restoring streets to their former residential character. 3, finally, the ideal result for the neighbors would be the creation of either a park or single-family parcels in keeping with the residences on the facing streets. We would also support, if sensitively done, uses that would benefit the community as a whole, such as utilizing the former Southampton Care Center along with other parts of the current holdings as workforce housing for people who work in the village. The association members cannot support dense attached condominiums or townhouses in our neighborhood similar to the Southampton Point or Bishop's Pond or the Village Latch, as this area is already overcrowded with traffic on a daily basis, and those uses would be inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood that and a detriment to the village. From this point forward, we hope to work with the hospital and the village to find a solution that benefits both the hospital, neighborhood, and our village, and we will be living here long after the hospital has moved west. Walter Dean, President, Southampton Hospital Neighborhood Association.
Thank you, Charlene. If there's no additional public comment, I can do 2 things. One, I can turn this over to comments from board members, or I can, which I think might be better if Frank or no, if you have anything else to add, we'd appreciate those thoughts, and then we can go defer this to the board.
My thought, given that you've heard everyone tonight, and after you hear from the board, I would then close the hearing.
Okay.
And then leave it open for, till the end of the month. So
Written comment.
For written comment,
Yep.
right. Just so you leave it open for written comment. But I closed the hearing tonight because I think everyone's spoken.
Thank you. Okay, is there any comments or questions from board members?
I would just like to say that it was a great honor to participate in the committee and in the drafting of this draft comprehensive master plan. Worked very hard at it, and a lot of the work was based on my experience in the planning board, where I became aware of the difficulty sometimes of enforcing the desire to maintain a smallness of scale and the residential neighbor of the neighborhood versus what our codes would allow. And I'm very encouraged by what Trustee Manger said, that once the draft plan becomes the final plan and is adopted, that's just the beginning of the process. That the codes must be revisited and reinforced, and in many cases reworded to make them more defensible in legal challenges, so that the land use boards have the ability to make their decisions stand up when they are challenged, and that the desire of the village to maintain a smaller scale village atmosphere can be realized. So, as I said, I appreciate what you said, Bill, about that the task is just starting once the master plan would be adopted. And I thank all the people tonight for the input that they provided. I thought some very good points were made, and we'll continue to work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stevenson. Are there any other comments from the board?
I'd just like to echo what Roy just said, and I was very happy that we got this process going a year ago, and I appreciate all the work, very hard work, Trustee Manger, and there's so many members of the community that participated in this, and that's really what it's meant to be. Everybody from the input from the community, and how you would like to see the village look in the years to come. So I look forward to adopting this, and of course the implementation process, which is nothing unless we get this implemented. So I look forward to that as well.
Yeah, I would just like to add one thing, Mayor. I see Jane Clare in the back, member of the planning board, also a member of the steering committee. I want to thank you very much for all your efforts and for being here tonight, again, the presentation of this plan. And I would also like to add that aside from the work that was done during the last year, the consultants, BFJ, Buckhurst Fishek Marr, also took into account previous reports that had been done on behalf of the village. So there was a study, for example, on the Central Business District. There was also a study that was done by Studio AB several years ago for the Planning Commission that looked at the built environment, specifically in residential neighborhoods, and took in observations of the built environment and again identified areas that should be looked at in terms of zoning. So to Ms. Conrad's point, we did look at lots of comments from different reports that have been done over the years, and they were specifically talking about increasing side yard setbacks so that neighbors are not on top of one another. That was an issue that you addressed. That is addressed in the report, Ms. Conrad, and there are suggestions that Frank Fish and his team made to, again, tweak some of those zonings so that, again, there is more open space between houses, more green space, more permeable surfaces, as they said earlier, not only for the look and appeal of the development, but also from an environmental standpoint, so that when we have a flash flood, lots of rain, a hurricane, God forbid, that again there is area in the soil for which the water can percolate and not again flood neighbors' properties. So a lot was taken into account other than just what was done over the past year. Previous reports were also studied by BFJ and incorporated into this draft. I don't know if Frank or Noah want to address any of that work that also went on, but there was additional work that went into this other than what was just gathered over the last 12 months.
Thank you, Trustee Manger. I would just conclude again by thanking everyone involved, ranging from the steering committee to our land use boards. I forgot to mention earlier our planning commission as well. We have Mark who's here and our planners. But in summary, I think when everyone from the public gets involved in a public hearing and expresses their opinion, or anyone like ourselves who wants to participate for some period of time and try to help in the planning or direction of the village, I think I wanted to applaud everyone here. But I also wanted to just summarize exactly what this plan does and how it helps the vision for the village moving forward. So this encompasses pretty much everything that many of us, public and board here, have discussed. And again, that includes the housing. It includes as far as setbacks, as Trustee Manger had pointed out, the need for multifamily housing that some of our residents had pointed out, and affordable housing as well. It looks at preservation. It looks at our village downtown and the planning of that. It looks at the parking situation as well as the mobility around our downtown. It looks at the traffic. It looks at our office district, which we want to avoid becoming more McMansions, but also, if there's available space, has an opportunity for more multifamily or potentially even some mixed use there while keeping the character. We obviously looked at our hospital. We looked at our parks and improving our parks and adding additional parks to the village. It looks at open space, and it looks at environmental sustainability. So all of these key themes through this comprehensive master plan are now brought all together as a guiding document or blueprint for this village moving forward. As Trustee Manger pointed out, this includes other studies, including the 2013 downtown comprehensive master plan. So I think, while not perfect, I think this plan does a good job tying everything together and allowing this board and future boards now to make implementations and decisions moving forward. Some will be easier to execute. We're already working on bike lanes, for example, but there's others that will take some more time. But I think now we have a very grave task at hand, which is to implement this and to do this as efficiently as possible. I've learned, for better or for worse, that in government things take time, but you must be persistent, and that's what we're going to be here. We're going to keep on working on this and chipping away at this until this is implemented. But again, I think this provides a good framework for our village moving forward, and it's also important that we update this more often the comprehensive master plan outside of the 2013 master plan had not actually been updated for over 20 years when BFJ had initially done that. And I think that had this been updated sooner, I think maybe some of those issues that maybe some of our residents typically have concerns about, maybe, just maybe, might not have happened. As Evelyn said, you can't put it back in the bottle, but we can take what we have today and we can make improvements on it and to make sure things get better and address the community's needs as they exist today. So with that being said, I'll make a motion.
I'd like to say something. Thank you.
Trustee Brown, feel free.
I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work, and public comments are quite important. I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work that participated in this. Public comments are very important to the board and our community, and they are constructive suggestions. I've taken detailed note, and what we suggest that the board would do is take a look at the notes in detail and see how we can address them going forward. This is a draft. We do thank you for that, and we shall speak about being able to comment on those things going forward. So thank you very much for your comments, and they are taken to heart, and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing regarding the comprehensive master plan. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we'll continue moving on with our meeting. There's 3 communications to the board. One is a correspondence from the Migden family. The second is a correspondence from Chief Alfie Callahan regarding the Southampton Fire Department fundraiser. And the third, which we heard, is a correspondence from Walter Dean, the president of the Southampton Hospital Neighborhood Association. We'll move forward with suggested resolutions. So Charlene, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 1, resolved that the claims for the warrant dated August 23rd, 2022, totaling $130,293.99, warrant A10 General Fund, $24,145.52, warrant H4 Capital Fund, and $50,000 warrant A11 payables be audited and approved. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 2, which is missing from my packet.
Yes.
Yeah, it's missing from mine as well.
Okay. Resolution number 2. Okay, resolved that the reading of the minutes for the public sessions for April 26, 2022, May 12th, 2022, May 24th, 2022 are dispensed, and the minutes are accepted as filed with the village clerk, and the actions taken at this meeting are hereby ratified and approved. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 3, the Board of Trustees approves the affordable housing protocols for 71 Hill Street LLC to administer workforce housing that is proposed for the site as attached. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
A quick discussion. I just want to, let the board know. I think that I spoke to Dee Dee, earlier before this meeting as well as before, and just wanted to state a few thoughts on this. First, I think it's an improvement from what we have, and so I think this is a good thing. I also just wanted to thank Dee Dee for her hard work here, as well as for her commitment to the community. She's donated her time and resources and passions to the village to try to make this a better place. And basically, you're involved in every organization out there and have contributed positively throughout decades throughout this village and throughout the East End. So I just wanted to thank you for that. The only thing I would add as this proposal goes is that I did do a little research. I looked at the minutes from 2009 when there was an amendment to our local code book regarding this, and I think the origin of the code was that so that we can have more affordable and workforce housing, which is sorely missing from the village and which was recognized in our comprehensive master plan. So that all I wanted to add was, number one, well, I think this is a good plan and positively improves the existing site. My personal preference would be to see additional workforce housing and also, potentially, I know there is enough parking there, but parking is always a bit of an issue as well. But in essence, again, I think this is I think this moves in the positive direction. There's always a need for more, hotel units. The more visitors we have, the better off we are. My only wish here is that there was some more workforce housing and, some slight changes to the site plan. Now, this is obviously under the purview of the planning board, but because the way our code was written, the Board of Trustees, has some ability to negotiate here and or, has the ability to have some discussion with the 71 Hill Street LLC as described in our code. So that's really all I wanted to add on this particular resolution.
I'll just add one other thing. Initially, this was going to be available, this affordable housing was going to be available only to those that work in the village. And I appreciate you willing to work with us to also include volunteer firemen and volunteer ambulance workers who may not technically work in the village, but because they work for a volunteer organization that's located in the village, whether it be the fire department or ambulance corps, that they will also be eligible for this affordable housing. So thank you very much for doing that, Dee.
Are you ready for a vote, Mayor?
Sure. Are there any other comments from the board? No.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 4, the Board of Trustees authorizes the village treasurer to receive a performance bond in the amount of $10,000 as recommended by Superintendent of DPW Gary Gillespie for underground septic work to be performed in the rear of 36 Windmill Lane behind Chippy's Restaurant and located on village property. And be it further resolved, the bond will be released upon final inspection and review after the completion of work by the DPW superintendent. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 5, resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor to sign an agreement between the Village of Southampton and GDP Garnett, D. Pasquale, and Betty Garnett for the proposal of an initial scope of work for recommended improvements to Village Hall and its plaza up to the cost of not to exceed $17,500. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Quick discussion here. I just wanted to explain to the public what this is. We've recognized for quite some time that Village Hall has not had the adequate upkeep that it deserves, and there's been decades of neglect, unfortunately, in Village Hall. And it is a structure that has tremendous historical value, and it is something that generations earlier had left us, and we want to make sure that we leave Village Hall to future boards and future generations as really the building that our downtown deserves. So we're engaging here a very talented, local architectural group that's done work throughout Southampton Village to help us not only revitalize the look of Village Hall, but look at some of the windows and restore some of it. The genesis of this was actually that we found a postcard from about 100 years or so ago, and we actually loved the way Village Hall looked. There was a green plaza in front of Village Hall, and we would like for that actually to reflect what Village Hall might have looked like 100 years ago. So by making future improvements, ironically, we'll be helping restore it to what it actually used to look like when it was originally built. Now, that being said, thanks to this board, by putting a 3-year capital budget plan in place, we've already appropriated funds in our capital budget for Village Hall. Another thing that will be looked at is the 3rd floor of Village Hall, which used to be home to the Southampton Village Police Department, as well as radio stations, and that is an empty. 3rd floor is a phenomenal opportunity to do something up there, so hopefully we'll have this architectural group look at that as well, and I just wanted to thank this board for taking the initiative to help us fix Village Hall. And again, our goal is to leave future boards and future generations with an improved village, and I look forward to the presentation that hopefully next month GEP will present to this board and to the community to demonstrate what Village Hall could potentially look like. So thank you again to this board for that.
And also perhaps they replace what used to be half-moon window up on the 3rd floor, which was double-hung windows were put there, and it's a beautiful outline of what the window used to be there that was replaced with what should not have been replaced there. So when that was pointed out to me, I said that was such a shame that they destroyed that. But I look forward to working on this project as well with the rest of the board. It's a good thing.
I'm disappointed that we were compared unfavorably earlier this evening with the village of Sag Harbor. So I'm glad we're doing this so to make sure that our village hall is more impressive than the village hall.
It already is, but we'll make sure that, you know, when you look at the former mayors and other former people who kind of helped, help this village get to where it was, we want to make sure that we stick to that. So thank you, Trustee Stevenson. Trustee Rest, I agree with you about that circular room. That's extremely important to fix that. That's a critical component of this job. Painting and stripping, professionally done, is also going to be important. Potentially replacing some of the stone in front of Village Hall, and really making this one of the more impressive Village Halls that is appropriate and fits within Southampton is important. Again, thanks to this board for already appropriated funds in the capital budget for that. So, all in favor?
Aye. Any opposed? Resolved that the Board of Trustees directs the Finance Office to make the following budget modification for fiscal year ending May 31st, 2022, from budget line A8040.4 Planning Commission contractual expenses in the amount of $700, from budget line A9010 employee benefits in the amount of $2,400 to budget line A8010.4 zoning contractual expenses in the amount of $700, and to budget line A5110.44 highway contractual expenditures in the amount of $2,400. This is for some year-end bills that came in. It seems that we spent more money in legal and contractual in the zoning board for the zoning board this year, and highway contractual had to do with some carting disposal expenses that came in that were higher than expected, as submitted by Corey Sweezy. So, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 7, resolved the Board of Trustees directs the Finance Department to make the following budget modification from budget line A5110.41 and from A5110.44 Parks Contractual Services in the amount of $5,000 and Parks Supplies and Materials in the amount of $5,000 to budget line A5110.2, actually that's 7110, not 5110, it's a correction there, typo. Parks Equipment in the amount of $10,000, and this was requested by Steve Phillips to reallocate some of his funds because he had an opportunity to upgrade some of his equipment, and he had some savings in some of his material and supply lines for this current fiscal year. So, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 8, the Board of Trustees approves the village's participation as an entity member in the Southampton Rotary with annual dues in the amount of $300. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And I would remind the board members that their meetings are every Thursday at noon. And as an associate member, any one of the Board of Trustees, myself, the clerk, can attend these meetings. And I would encourage you, if you'd like to attend. They're held at the Southampton Inn.
Yeah, Dee Dee posts them.
Mm-hmm.
There's something else she does.
At Claude's Restaurant,
Yeah,
Claude's, I think it's called, Claude's Restaurant, yes. So, do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 9, the Board of Trustees approves the request of Matthew Weeks, Cooper's Beach Manager, for the following employee updates. James Malone is Cooper's Beach Lifeguard at a rate of $18.50 an hour, effective August 19th. Thayer Schwartz and Allison Booth, an increase of $1 per hour, effective August 17th, and newly appointed assistant managers. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Discussion? So these are going to be short-lived then? Because,
Yes.
I mean, it's not.
It's only a
much
couple of weeks.
longer. Okay.
What happens is, the second week,
Right.
kids go back to school.
Right.
And I will tell you, the beach looks absolutely fabulous this year. I had some out-of-town guests, and they had never been to Cooper's, and I took them there for lunch, and they were raving about how beautiful the beach
All right,
was.
thank you.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 10, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves Ruben Acador as a probationary member of the Southampton Village Fire Police Company Number 1, effective August 23rd, 2022. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 11, resolve the Board of Trustees amends Resolution 2022-1087, adopted July 21st, meeting as follows. Michael Wilds, Maintenance Mechanic 3, suspended without pay for 30 days, effective July 22nd. Be it further resolved that Michael Wilds was placed on unpaid administrative leave effective July 22nd and will be suspended for 30 days without pay upon delivery of disciplinary charges on or about August 24th under Section 75 of the New York State Civil Service Law, effective August 23rd, 2022. And be it further resolved, the Board of Trustees appoints Eileen Powers, Esquire, as hearing officer to preside over the disciplinary hearing at a rate of $1,500 per diem, $275 per hour. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 12, the Board of Trustees approves the Rotary Club of Southampton to host its annual Southampton Fest cocktail party on September 30th, 2022 from 4 to 11 p.m. at Agawam Park. The permit fee for the tent will be waived for this event. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 13, resolve the Board of Trustees approve Southampton High School to host its annual Welcome Back Beach Party at Cooper's Beach on Thursday, September 8th, 2022 from 5 to 9 p.m. with a rain date of Friday, September 9th from 5 to 9 p.m. This event will be pre-coordinated with DPW, and SVOR is volunteering to chaperone the event. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 14, resolved that the Board of Trustees approved the FADA Fund to host its fashion event on Saturday, September 10th from 8 to 6 p.m. at Agawam Park with expected participants of 1,000. This event has been pre-coordinated with the building department, was pre-coordinated with the building department, maintenance, parks, and SVPD, is now amended as follows. Resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the rescheduling this event of the FADA Fund to host a fashion event on September 23rd, 2023. Details to follow. All departments will be notified of the rescheduled event for 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 15, resolved that the Board of Trustees authorizes the Southampton Town United Soccer Club to use the Downs Family Park for their 22-23 soccer programs beginning September 22nd through September 21st, 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 16, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the Southampton Fire Department to hold its annual antique muster at Agawam Park on Saturday, September 10th from 8 to 11 p.m. Village departments will pre-coordinate for the event. Cooper's Beach will also be utilized as an annex site for the event. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 17, the Board of Trustees of the Board of Incorporated Village of Southampton authorizes the village administrator to publish a notice of public hearing to be held Thursday, September 8th, 2022 at 6 p.m. as a hybrid in-person/Zoom meeting regarding local law 13-2022, the proposal to amend village code by amending chapter 110.4-43, Schedule L, stopping, standing, parking on Pulaski Avenue. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That concludes the resolution program.
Thank you very much, Charlene. We'll turn to comments from board members, and we'll start with Deputy Mayor Trustee Vesta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I'd like to thank Bill and the steering committee for all the work that you have done and still will be doing on the long-awaited and much overdue comprehensive master plan, and to all the residents that so wonderfully participated and care so much about this village to be interested in being part of this process. The other night, we had the pleasure of attending the chicken and rib dinner that was sponsored by, it's a fundraiser by the fire department. We had a lot of fun, and and it was great at the end of the night. They had a band, and that almost sounded like a professional band, right? They were just terrific, and they were members of the fire department. It was just a great event, and I look forward to. I was so happy to hear that the muster is coming back after I guess this will be almost 3 years since they haven't had a muster. It's a little bit smaller, not as big as it was in the past, but I'm so happy that once again it's planned. It's a great event, and it's a wonderful event for the junior firefighters as well, because they're really the ones that do all the drills. So I'm happy about that. A couple more weeks left to the summer, and the downtown crew and DPW has been working very, very hard. Weekends, late nights as well, keeping the streets clean. We've been power washing all through the summer months, and it's been challenging to keep up with the beaches, but they've been doing a terrific job. So my kudos to them, and enjoy the rest of the summer at our beautiful beaches. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Resta. Trustee Brown.
Just to reiterate again that everyone's comments are valued, and we look forward to looking closer into them and getting back to you. And thank everyone for having a continued safe summer.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Trustee Manger.
Yeah, again, just thank you to all the members of the public that came out tonight or joined us by Zoom to comment on the draft of the comprehensive plan for the village. Really, it was a great effort by everybody in the community, including those that came out tonight to make comments. I think really it's going to be a very strong plan for the next 10 years for the village. And as the mayor has said, the next phase is in implementation of the recommendations, which we will be working on with public hearings throughout the next several months. One other item I just wanted to mention is, and we're trying to do the best we can to crack down on it, and this is something that's come up many times, and that is just enforcement of village codes. We're working very hard to, again, make sure that noise is kept at a minimum, especially late at night, where it affects neighbors, as well as just the way the village appears, for visitors and residents alike. So there's a lot that still can be done on further enforcement of the village, especially at this very busy time of the year when we have so many people coming to our village, and we want to keep it as pristine as possible. So again, to that end, I want to just thank the police department, DPW, and everybody for all their efforts to again make sure that people are following the code in the village. Hopefully, we're going to have a minimum of U-turns on Main Street and a minimum of speeders on our roads. But again, I want to thank everybody for their cooperation, and we're going to continue to work on further enforcement in the village for a quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Manger. Trustee Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to give a shout out to the Southampton Fresh Air Home, a wonderful organization that's been helping youth with physical disabilities here in Southampton for 121 years. As a fundraiser, this Saturday, they are having a concourse, which is a gathering of classic antique cars, and they are going to have a really, really nice number of super cool cars out there. It's at the Fresh Air Homes location at 36 Barker's Island Road. It's going to be from 3 to 7 p.m. And in addition to seeing all these really cool antique cars, they're going to have some boutiques there for shopping, craft beer tasting by the Other Half Brewing Company, some single malt scotch tasting. There's going to be a presentation of something really cool called the Webb Telescope, and there are going to be children's activities that will be provided by the Southampton Village Fire Department. They're going to have an antique fire engine there and some ways where kids can pretend to be firefighters. There will also be hors d'oeuvres and cocktails served. So the tickets are $150, children are $75. Those are donations to the Southampton Fresh Air Home. If anybody wants to go and feel they can't afford that, let me know. Call Village Hall, speak to Patrick in the village, the mayor's assistant, and or get a hold of me at Roy Stevenson at southamptonvillage.org, and we can set you up with tickets if you'd really like to go. But I encourage you to attend. It'll be a really cool afternoon, 3 to 7 at the Southampton Fresh Air Home. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stevenson. I'll just conclude by echoing the comments from board members, but also just add a few things. And number one, wanted to thank our Department of Public Works. They've been working overtime the past few weekends to make sure the village downtown is in great shape. We're power washing. We've got team members picking up trash. We're doing more trash can pickups, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that our village looks pristine. So I think we really are continuing to move in a very good direction when it comes to our downtown. And then secondly, I had a positive meeting today with the State Assembly person Fred Beal regarding the replica of the windmill. I've worked with a team here to try to deliver that back to the village. So currently we have some plans in place thanks to CMAC, Sammy, and Porter Bibb, and we're putting together cost estimates, and then we'll be submitting that to Fred, who's been an outstanding State Assembly person for us, who constantly gets things done. And then hopefully those cost estimates will be submitted, and we might be able to get some funding for the replica of the windmill. So we'll see how it goes, but we're moving forward on this as well. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel, legal, and contractual matters. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The time is 8:47. I'll let the record show that no action was taken in executive session. I'd like to make a motion to return to public session, 8:47 p.m. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.